In 1993, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, or the ATF, warranted an investigation on the Branch Davidians, a religious cult that believed the apocalypse was imminent and had built themselves a compound in Waco, Texas for protection. Led by a self-proclaimed god, also known as David Koresh, had begun storing illegal weapons in their compound. When Koresh refused to let them into the compound to seize their weapons, the ATF called the Federal Bureau of Investigation, or the FBI, for help, and the conflicts escalated to a tragic event. That was not the peaceful compromise they had hoped for. The tragic event of the Waco siege is an important example of conflict between religious freedom and the government's job to maintain domestic tranquility. The Branch Davidians were formed off of Victor Houtef's work. Houtef is a Belgian immigrant who started the Church of Seventh-day Adventists. He believed that Jesus was soon to return. The simplistic Davidians tried to stay away from modern lifestyles. The First Amendment in the United States Constitution states that the government cannot make any laws that disrespect any religion, prohibit a religion, or prevent the exercise of a religion. On the other hand, the government's job is to preserve domestic tranquility. When a religion becomes a religious cult, the lines blur. David Koresh was born in Houston, Texas in 1959 as Vernon Wayne Howell. Koresh never knew his father, and his single 15-year-old mother let Koresh's grandparents raise him. He was lonely and bullied by his peers. He was a terrible student, was dyslexic, and dropped out of high school. The two things that made him happiest were the Bible and music. At the age of 20, Koresh joined the Church of Seventh-day Adventists. He was kicked out of the church due to his bad influence on the children. Koresh later decided to move to Hollywood to pursue a career in music. When this failed, he moved to Waco, Texas, to become a member of the Branch Davidians. There was only 1,400 followers. Koresh had an affair with the old leader, Lewis Rodden. When she passed away, the tension between Koresh and Lewis Rodden's son, George, rose. Both men wanted the head position that Lewis Rodden had previously had. Koresh moved with his followers to eastern Texas, but soon returned in camouflage with 7 armed men. They proceeded in gunfight, leaving George Rodden wounded. They were tried for attempted murder. Koresh told the jury that they were aiming at a tree and that they were just checking for corpse abuse. Koresh's case was a mistrial, and the 7 were acquitted. In 1990, Koresh became the leader of the Branch Davidians and legally changed his name to David Koresh. When David Koresh became leader, he was suspected for filling the compound Mount Carmel Center in Waco, Texas, with illegal weapons. Local people tipped the ATF, leading to the ATF getting a search and arrest warrant. On February 28th, the ATF came to investigate, and the Davidians refused to let them in. The ATF claimed that Koresh had a methamphetamine lab. Their evidence was poor. Koresh told the men to grab weapons, and the women and children were told to hide in their rooms. Both sides state that they heard gunshots from either side. This resulted in a 2-hour intense gun battle. 4 federal agents and 6 Branch Davidians died. The ATF unsuccessfully raided the compound. The FBI were called. This led to a 51-day standoff. Taking charge of the situation, the FBI cut off all communication from the Branch Davidians for 51 days. The only issue was the FBI was having trouble getting the Davidians out. They used tactics of sleep deprivation. They cut off all their water sources. 11 people were forced out, and they were all arrested. The FBI considered shooting at Koresh with snipers, but they eventually decided violence was not the option. U.S. Attorney Janet Reno was newly appointed at the time. She was the first woman serving as Attorney General. Reno was the one that recommended and authorized that the FBI should assault on the Branch Davidians. She made her case to President Bill Clinton. He gave her the go-ahead. On April 19th, the FBI was heavily armed and prepared. The FBI decided the best way to push the Branch Davidians out was with tear gas. They used military tear gas cartridges, or CS gas. The FBI claimed to the Davidians that no agent were going to open fire. The FBI ran through Mount Carmel with trucks. The Branch Davidians had a different idea. They had 2 cans of Coleman fuel. They used that to light the Mount Carmel compound on fire. The left side of the compound exploded. The whole Mount Carmel blew up in flames. Overall, 9 Branch Davidians survived the fire, and 76 Branch Davidians died. Enormous amounts of firearms were found at the compound. Autopsies confirm that some of the Branch Davidians died of skull injuries, cyanide poisoning, benzene, mercury killings, and at least 25 Branch Davidians were shot. Of the surviving Branch Davidians, some received sentences up to 40 years. The Waco siege led to the Oklahoma City bombing in April of 1995. It also reformed the way we think about religious cults and how the ATF and FBI handle the sieges. Overall, the Waco siege was an important part of American history.